Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Anything you'd like to request to hear?
Oh, if I only had a brain.
Joe, I was asked to say a few words about you.
Okay.
And I think I'll begin with a story. I think everyone here in the newsroom has always considered you indispensable. And this was reinforced on Wednesday afternoon when a longtime source of mine, who also knows you well, a guy with bedrock integrity, called me on the phone and said, "Bill, I'm desperate. I need some advice." He said, "I've got a great story." And it was supposed to be for release on Thursday, and I knew that there was only one person who could do it right, Joe Slobodzian. But Joe's leaving, and the story's not coming till Tuesday. What should I do? He said, "Joe is so fair. He understands the issues. He'll get it right. You can always count on him for accurate, thorough stories." Yeah. So you know who it is, and I know who it is, but I won't reveal a confidential source. But I decided to do a little investigative reporting, Joe, about your 35 years here at the Inquirer. And I counted up the bylines. And would anyone like to take a guess on how many bylines Joe had?
More than 130.
Come on. Mr. Wood, you make a guess.
3.
Nice.
5,923.
Wow. Only I got paid by the word.
Yeah.
And I have here, on May the 13th, 1982, Joe made his debut in Horsham Neighbors.
All right.
And for those of you who care about productivity, there were 4 Slobodzian bylines. But I want to read the first 3 paragraphs because, in my opinion, they withstand the test of time. The headline is, "The volunteer spirit keeps WCSD on the air in Bucks County." And here are the first 3 paragraphs by Joseph A. Slobodzian. Every Monday night at 6:30, John Lacey goes on the air interviewing the people who make the news in his community. If you have not heard of Lacey or his radio program, don't feel bad. After all, Lacey's community is the central Bucks County area around Warminster, and his station does not reach very far. Lacey doesn't even get paid for his work. When he's not questioning someone on the Perspective talk show or spinning classical records on Sunday afternoon, Lacey is chairman of the English department at William Tennant High School in Warminster.
Centennial School District.
And in that same edition of Neighbors with those 4 bylines, there was a picture of Joe Slobodzian saying he lives in Warminster, he knows the county, he's your man. Looking a little bit more youthful, but of course that was 35 years ago. But I think what's really important about Joe, and as the source said, he really is indispensable. Joe has adapted to modern times. So
Pretty much.
with the help of Ray Boyd, I got some other statistics in my investigative work. Would anyone like to know how many hits Mr. Slobodzian's work has had since September 1st? Tony, what's your guess?
I'm gonna go 3,200,000.
Tony's always been the master of hyperbole.
Yeah.
The answer is 673,278. Plus, on Meek Mill alone, 466,000.
Oh, he's a slacker except for that.
In my opinion, is really the classical beat reporter. He's a person who has the sources, he knows public records, he understands criminal justice as well as the attorneys, public defenders, and judges in the system, and you really have been indispensable. So
Well,
Joe, thank you.
Bill.
It's been great to work with you. Nothing better.
Joe, there could be some other people speaking too, but first I want to
Did I say that was okay?
come over here to your workstation.
All right.
I want to thank Jimmy Parker, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'm not as good at this as Bill is, so I'm going to have to read it. This is a bittersweet day for all of us. I spent part of it at a farewell gathering for some of my Daily News colleagues whom I love very much, and we're losing a number of other folks today and over the weekend. So this ceremony is for all of you. Joe, I know you're a tuba player, but I'm pretty sure you can also handle the sousaphone. So maybe Jimmy will let you play a number or two when we're done here.
I'm not that good.
This ceremony is obviously kind of a schizophrenic affair, mainly because I studied at the Bill Marimo School where everything is done with proper decorum and manners, but I also studied at the Gar Joseph School where not everything is necessarily in the best taste or necessarily even legal. Now, Joe, some people are here to roast you today, and I will simply toast you. You're not driving home, are you?
Yes, I am.
You are driving.
Yeah.
Well, who cares? It doesn't matter. We had a tradition on the Daily News city desk of breaking into Gar's liquid refreshments, and when the situation called for it. And Gar has given me the go-ahead to do so now with his bottle of Rittenhouse Rye, which we will drink from shot glasses shaped like shoes in honor of our colleague Wendy Ruderman.
Thank you, sir.
We had, we both arrived at the Inquirer in 1982, you and I, you from the Bulletin and I from the Wilmington paper, and over the years I'd say you probably edited me more often than I edited you. But it has been one of the thrills and highlights of my career to be able to say that I'm Joe Slobodzian's editor. We work in a profession with its share of cynicism and bitterness, and in all these years I have never heard anyone say a negative word about you. I have never seen you show anger, despite many opportunities to do so. I think I missed that. I must have been off that day. On the contrary, Joe, everyone knows that you come to work every day with a smile on your face and a twinkle in your eye and a good word for everyone, and you go home every day the same way. You may not go home that way today, but Last year, you and Stephanie Farr and I were invited to speak in an ACLU program on the media, and you were peppered with antagonistic questions. But both of you responded with such care and concern and empathy that your questioners were quickly disarmed and won over. The bottom line, Joe, is that your readers and your sources and your colleagues know that a story bearing the byline of Joseph A. Slobodzian is a story they can trust. And now a new generation of journalists is being trained at Temple under your tutelage. So, Joe, we'll miss your experience, your expertise, your wisdom, and that twinkle in your eye. And we wish you many years of health and happiness and continued joy in all your endeavors. Cheers, pal.
Thanks.
Salud.
Ooh, that's good.
Remember it. But you and I actually met one day early in 1990. I was a stringer, and Emily Lounsbury allowed me to shadow her for the day because I was going to take a job covering courts, and she was telling me how it works. And we met that day. You guys were hustling through the courthouse and ran into each other. I knew your byline, of course, because I was already an avid reader, and I've been an avid reader of yours ever since, with the utmost respect. I did the same search that Bill was doing with all those clips, and it's funny because when I first started today, trying to get Doc Center to load, putting in your byline, it just was taking forever. I went to Nexus, and it only went back till 2000, and that was like 3,000 stories. And anyway, I finally found some and solicited some others. Julie Busby pointed out one that was a favorite. Joe did a lot of big A1 stories, hundreds and hundreds, and I looked at the Scheibel story, which was the couple who let their poor boy die by praying over him. Of course, Kermit Gosnell, you got a lot of face time. But Julie pointed out the day that 3 years ago you dashed to a courtroom after learning a witness in an assault trial was tearfully testifying when his prosthetic eye popped out. Joe's memorable lead. Let it now be recorded in the annals of the U.S. justice system. A Philadelphia trial has ended in mistrial by eyeball. So, in 2012, Joe and I spent 3 months working together in the really cramped confines of his CJC office, which up until that point had been his CJC office alone. And that really could have been a nightmare. But, I found you, as I know all of us have, to be a calm, collegial, and just first-rate reporter. So I would say thank you for your efforts then, now, best of luck, and please come back often.
I will. Thank you.
That was fun, Lynn trial.
I have something negative to say.
I thought so.
Joe,
Tony.
Something that's come to my attention. Those of you who've been around a while remember that we had a ferociously exacting managing editor named Gene Foreman. There was nothing scarier in life than seeing Gene Foreman read your story. Because you knew you did something wrong, you didn't know what it was. Kind of like being a husband. Gene was a stickler for details. Okay. Well, in the great way back, before they knew better, Joe and I worked the Sunday desk together. Okay. We had 5 reporters. You hear that, Diane? We had 5. And even though we had 5, we decided on a rainy October Sunday not to cover the Columbus Day Parade. At the time, I thought it was the best journalistic decision of my life. You would agree. The Sons of Italy did not. They stormed the paper. Gene was more displeased than the Sons of Italy. He came out to the city room and gave me a public scolding. And Joe, being a great reporter, was nowhere to be found. And Gene said, "You violated Inquirer policy." And like a dope, I said, "How?" He zipped to his office and came back with that red binder, Joe. You have that, right, still?
I'm taking it with me.
Okay, good. And he said, page 17, Policy and Procedures Manual. We cover all ethnic parades. I didn't say I didn't know we had a policy. But anyway, Gene found out that Joe was leaving, and he sent a note. And I quote, this is from Gene Foreman, who could not be with us today. He says, had the manual's wisdom been followed, it would not have been necessary for us to struggle to explain the unexplainable to an unhappy delegation from the sons of Italy. But Gene softened in his old age. He said, given your exemplary performance, before and after, I am persuaded to grant you absolution. Peace, Chuck. But he added a CC. He said, Tony Wood, who is not absolved for this matter, is copied in this memo. Joe, that was the biggest mistake of your career, and I wish I could say the same thing for myself. But thank you for
Well, it was. I knew I liked to write, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, or whether I could even write and earn a living at it. And ninth grade English class, we were reading the Iliad, and we were told to write the Siege of Troy as if it were a news story. And I got the assignment back, and at the top of it, the English teacher had written, "You're pretty good at this. You ought to consider doing this for a living." And that was the moment. Ninth grade, and I've been fortunate enough to work in this business since I graduated from Temple in '73, full time, and for two of the, and I've said I've been fortunate to spend most of that time in the major leagues at the Philadelphia Bulletin, and when that closed, here at the Inquirer since then. And after that many years, I have no regrets. There's nothing left I want to do. I miss the people here. I'll miss the laughs and the fun. But it's time for me to go, and for the next group of people who were me that long ago to pick up the pace. And it's got to be a challenging time for all of you. I know that, but I also know that you'll make it work, because you have to make it work. It's too important what we do for the country and for the public, and for us. And God, what else would we do? How would we find honest work? So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I really do.